always hear like 90% of millionaires make it from real estate.
What are the next steps?
Like I see what you have, like what you and your wife make together and everything. Buy a place and then eventually turn it into an investment property or something like that.
It sounds complicated.
It sounds like it's getting messy.
It may work for someone, may not work for someone.
We ran his credit and it's 480.
Live behind decisions I chose. Peaks feel good and the valleys get low. Chains for the tires in the rain, hail, snows. Like this everywhere that I go, everywhere that I go.
Hey everybody, it's Hussein Kabani, your favorite broker. Vern and I were actually going to record another video about some successes that we've actually had, right? So there is a lot of times, guys, that people will call me and they're like, hey, we want to sell this house and we want to move to a bigger house. And I look at them and I ask them some qualifying questions. And at the end of it, this is a very non-sales thing to do.
Yeah.
Why would you sell your house? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. You could still move forward, but why would you sell this house? Like, sometimes I run into people that have bought townhouses in Pickering for like $260,000. And I'm like, why would you sell? Like, it doesn't even make sense to me, you know? So let's hold on to it.
How much is worth right now? $1 million?
$1 million, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would you have to sell this thing? Like, you don't even need to take all of the equity out. You just need to take some of it out to move this thing forward, right?
Yeah.
So this is where Vern and I have worked closely with our clients and basically just kind of coached them into doing this. And at the end of the day, I'm a sales guy. I don't like to call myself a sales guy, but I am a sales guy. And I literally talk myself out of selling people's houses because I don't think it's the right thing to do. Like, I think that my job is more of a consultant. And if I can actually show some people how to actually better their future, in my opinion, and if they want to follow my advice, then I think that's something that we should be doing. We should be supporting people with.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll tell you guys this too, is that I go into houses, I explain this whole thing. They think it's some kind of a scam. Because they're just like, why would this guy come in and tell me not to sell my house? Like, what's up with this?
They think you have something to do with the mortgage broker.
Yeah, exactly. They think
I
this
had
is
it like last year.
Yeah? So they think it's some kind of a scam or whatever, but then I explain it to them like, hey, listen, like, I don't care. Do whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy to sell your house and collect a commission off of it, but I don't know if this is the best thing that you could do for your financial future. So that's where I get Vern connected and basically start running through their numbers and stuff like that. And it just so happened that Chris might be thinking about doing something like that.
Trying to,
right?
That's always been my thing too, is like, I've always thought of like real estate as a long-term thing. And you always hear like 90% of millionaires make it from real estate. So it's always been my thing to buy a place and then eventually turn it into an investment property.
Yep.
I never wanted to sell it and then get into a bigger place. So if now's the time that I can actually take advantage of that with the information that I get from you guys,
Yep.
then I want to try to make that move.
Let's play this out.
Yeah.
A little bit. And how would you handle something like this? So I met with Chris. I'm like, hey, buddy, don't sell your place because you're nuts. Why don't you just keep it and rent it out and move forward?
The first thing I check it out is I kind of need to explain to them there will be a little bit of a shortfall. You may able to carry the cash flow on both properties because one of them is going to become an investment property. So let's say you move out of your condo, you want to buy something else, your condo is going to become an investment property. So you will collect the rental income. And you probably have a small shortfall. So technically what happens is you can borrow 80% of the property value when you do a refinance. So you're only missing about a 20% of extra mortgage you're going to carry on the new property. And the 80% of the mortgage payment or most of the mortgage payment and the expenses should be covered with the rental income. Or if not, that's where you come in and carrying the mortgage. That makes sense?
Yeah.
But mostly it's for the long term. Appreciation that we talked about in the previous videos, like every 3 years it goes up, you are keeping a property, that principal is coming paid down as well. And if we ever want to sell it, you also do have an opportunity to sell it as well. It's not like you cannot never sell it if you miss an opportunity. So I'm getting a lot of clients, the market is not where it should be, but they bought something. My advice would be, why do you want to sell right now? Why don't you carry it for next 1 or 2 years or 3 years or maybe 4 years until the market picks up? You can sell at that time. It could be like a $200,000 extra money you would have been had. So your mortgage will be paid down by 200%. Oh, sorry, $200,000 or $300,000, whatever the value is going to be. But where a lot of people get skeptical is about, can I carry both mortgages? Can I carry the extra $1,000 payment? So I will give you a perfect example. I have a gentleman, he nearly has a no mortgage and he's moving to Vancouver to live with his family. I said, why are you selling it? But they don't want to take the stress. It's maybe not for everyone, if someone who understands it. But when we talk about, okay, it's going to be $5,000 in the payment, then you're going to have a $3,000 rental income. So you're going to put $2,000 out of the pocket. It goes down to the previous video that we talked about. It's actually not a $2,000 shortfall. It's maybe actually a $500 shortfall because you are paying down the principal.
Well, the forced savings, right?
Yeah.
Because your principal
It's like
amount
a
that's
little
going
piggy
in.
bank.
Forced savings, right?
Yeah.
But if we ever run into a financial situation, Chris, like let's say you cannot keep up the condo and the new house you're looking to purchase, you can always sell it.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be a better time to sell to take more of appreciation. That makes sense.
So basically, like if Chris wants to do something like this and he approaches you with doing it, what are the next steps? Like, so what would end up happening? Obviously, he would provide all of his information about his income and credit. Well, I guess you guys would run the credit and whatnot. And then what happens after that? Like, I guess there's some appraisals that need to take place.
First we do assessment to see if we can carry both mortgages.
Fair enough.
So not everyone able to carry that. Right?
So is that something you guys kind of just do in-house first, like your own calculations?
On calculation, I say, hey, Chris, you can do this, you cannot do this.
And you could basically outline to Chris, hey, man, like based on our numbers over here, if you're going to go and buy like $1 million place or whatever else like that, we think that this is what you're going to be short. Like, are you going to be able to cover this? Are these the numbers you can kind of come up with?
We can have so pretty much once you send the documents, we just run an in-person meeting or a Zoom call, and we just go on call and say, hey, I don't think so, Chris, you will be able to keep the property. I think you need to go back to your realtor or Hussein and say, hey, you had to sell it because you may not qualify. Or I'll tell you, yeah, you may qualify, maybe not through the bank. It will be through the alternate lenders, like a B lenders, but it's going to cost you high interest rate.
Yeah.
It depends on how you foresee the future. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, what you believe is going to happen
What
in the
you
long
believe
run.
in, right? So if you look at short term, you're like, I'm nuts. I'm going to go with the B lender. But some clients, they turn around and say, hey, I get it. I think I can carry it. Go with the B lender. Let's see how it goes for 1 or 2 years.
And sometimes you got to go with the B lender for now. You know what I mean? And then in the
switch.
future, you just flip it out, right? Exactly. I mean, like I'm going to have to do that, I think, with one of my places. I won't qualify. I'm going to have to go with the B lender, take the hit right now. Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah. But people think that's negative. I'll just add that in there. Like a lot of people think that once you go out of the top 5, like you're a write-off. Yeah. But it's not true because there's companies out there, right? Like B lenders that give you actual proper rates, just like the top 5 banks do, 100%. If you're qualified. 100%. It doesn't mean that they're just lending in like tricky situations.
So if you look at what the B lender is, it comes down to non-traditional way of lending. So not like a private lender. So we talked about the non-traditional lenders.
Yeah.
So they are traditional. They're still regulated by OSFI. They're regulated by the regulatory. But what happens, for example, if you're self-employed, you may not file the actual income on your personal taxes, but your business can have a positive cash flow.
Yeah.
So they lend based on the business income, not on the personal income. That's how they're different from the bank.
Yeah.
So they take a little bit of more risk. More risk come with a little bit more reward. So that's why the rates are slightly higher.
Awesome. So so basically, we're going to get to a point of where Chris has sent you everything. You guys have kind of had a Zoom call or an in-person meeting, gone through the numbers, and Chris is like, yeah, okay, fine. Like I'm going to have a $500 hit on this condo, and I'm okay carrying this thing forward.
Before that, I have a question. Let's say you came to me and you said, Chris, like I see what you have, like what you and your wife make together and everything all together, and we don't think that you guys can carry both going forward. You're going to have to sell the condo and then buy the other place. What if we were willing to like rent out the basement in the next place or something like that to offset our payments?
It depends on what you want to buy, right? So if you buy a new place with a separate entrance, washroom, and a kitchen, we can actually use a basement rental.
And sorry, that's a requirement. What's the requirement for you? Like if Chris buys a property that has a rental potential in the basement, what are the qualifying criteria for a lender to consider that?
So it's different from lender to lender.
Okay.
So
is there a standard of like what they would want to see?
Some lenders want a legal basement apartment. That's mean it's been retrofit.
Right.
Yeah.
But to the most part, the lenders we work with, the major banks, they're okay as long as you have a separate entrance, washroom, bedroom, and a kitchen.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be legal. So there's a big difference between a legal apartment and a self-contained apartment.
Okay.
Right? So if you have a self-contained basement apartment on the new home, we can definitely use a rental income from that.
Does something like that make a big difference when you...
I wouldn't say it would make a significant difference, but if you're on the borderline, it may get you qualified.
Okay.
Is there any way of like even roughly throwing out a number? Like if you were able to get, I don't know, $1,200, $1,500 a month extra from a basement, is there
Will use 50% of that.
50%. So they'll use 50% of that. And any idea roughly of how much more that could buy you in this
Probably
market?
about 20% more.
So 20% more.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're looking at $1 million place, could you go to 1.2 based on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's kind of offset.
So that's pretty significant. Like actually, that's pretty significant. And you said like they would actually use 50%. Is that throughout, or are there some lenders that may look at it more or less?
Some lenders go up to 80%.
Okay.
And some lenders say, hey, listen, it's not even a legal apartment. We can't even use it.
We can't even touch it.
It depends on the lender, right?
Yeah.
So working with a mortgage broker, you can go to the lender who can work with it, right?
Yeah, you
can
know
put
what
puzzles
rules
together.
everyone has.
Yeah.
So let's say you buy the property, you are on a borderline, okay, I'm having $1,000 shortfall. Now, hold on, I'm going to find a house with a basement apartment. I can take that income and I can fill the gap.
Yeah.
And you may say, you know what, I want to keep the condo. Can I keep the condo right now?
Okay, so that's a good way. So maybe to try to keep it, but
Yeah.
you got to be really serious about saying, hey, like I really want to end up keeping my place to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go out and find a place that can have a self-contained or a legal apartment.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit harder at that point, right?
Sure, yeah, but I guess even by what you're kind of saying is that if you can afford to get that 20% increase in your purchase price, that should actually cover off the gap that you would have anyways, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So basically, we've gotten to the point of like, okay, so Chris could do it. He's going to rent out his condo and he's going to buy a house with a self-contained apartment. What's next?
So we send the application to the lender. We want to do an appraisal on the current condo because we want to make sure, let's say you come and tell me your condo worth $700,000. So we are calculating numbers based on $700,000. So once the appraisal is done, we know the value is there. We have enough money to put the down payment into the new property within your budget.
So they will actually
There'll be two appraisals.
Two appraisals, right? So one will be for the value of the property, and then what
That you are already owning it.
and then the estimated rent, right?
That's what I think I was going to mention.
Okay.
So you don't need to give me a lease agreement. So you may not find a tenant because you're still living in there. So when we do the appraisal, we will also get a market opinion of how much your condo can be rented out for. So
Okay.
that rental income will be used in the calculation for you to qualify for the bank. So it will be not coming from you or me and say, hey, he's going to rent it for $2,500. It will be a written report.
I have a question now. Okay, so it sounds like it's getting messy. Okay, like right?
It sounds complicated.
and I think
Chris
that's
has lost by himself already.
Yeah.
well. You know what? But I think it's a good point because I think most people start to get back off at this point right now because it's starting
too
to sound really
complicated.
complicated. But the thing is, it is complicated, but it's not that bad once you start working through it. So my concern that comes up here right now is, okay, like we've gone out, we found a house that Chris and his wife likes, and it has everything that he needs. And then you go back and look at the condo as the appraisal and everything. So obviously we're going to have to be conditional on the house that he wants to purchase. Will all of this all happen all at the same time?
So we will do the appraisal on the condo
In
ahead
advance.
of time, in advance.
Of even going out and shopping, because that's going to help us set a baseline.
Exactly. The reason we need to know, because what about if the condo is not 700,000, the condo is 600,000, he may not have enough down payment to put into the new house.
So maybe like when you guys have your initial conversation about the whole thing, maybe I would just run a quick little analysis and give you a conservative value of what I think
Exactly.
it is, and you base it on
That's
that.
why I do most of the time, because the realtors kind of give an opinion based on what's going on in the market. So
At least you won't have to spend money on an appraisal at that point, right? Just in
Yeah.
case things don't work out.
So, how the best way to do is we are in the market right now. You can put the conditional upon financing.
Yeah.
So within the 5 business days, we can get the appraisal done on the condo to see how much you can rent it out for. To validate the information you and your realtor has been provided, it's worth 700,000, and I can rent it for $2,500. So we'll send one appraisal for the condo. Sometimes we may need an appraisal on the property you're looking to buy, or we may not need it. It depends on who the lender is.
Yeah.
But let's say you found a property with a legal basement or self-contained basement, then we will send an appraisal to go and write a report and say how much the rental can be, rental income can be generated from the basement apartment. So within the 5 days, everything will be done. Both applications will be reviewed for your refinance and the purchase by the lender, and they sign off on all the conditions.
Seems like a lot of work to do in 5 banking days.
Yeah, we usually get it done within about 3 days.
3 days, okay. All right.
That's not too bad. It sounds like a lot of work on your end and a waiting game for me mainly.
Yeah, so that's why I always tell, give me all the documents.
Oh,
up
that's
front.
something you were telling me about today. So Chris walks in and he's like, well, I contacted Vern, but he's sent me this list of stuff that he wants me to provide.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm done. Like I stalled
Yeah,
out.
just
So
waiting
that
on it.
list will take 80% of the workload
Yeah.
before you even find a property.
You know what I told Chris? And I said, this is probably not going to work for a lot of people, so don't ask Vern to do this. I have a very good relationship with Vern. And I basically just tell him this is my accountant's information. And I write a blank email to my accountant, just give this guy whatever he wants. So
Yeah.
I eliminate the brain freeze right there.
Yeah, actually, Sabina, my underwriter, she just get hold of the accountant if you want to do that. Do that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information in the beginning, but
Yeah.
once I have the list, I send it to you. That's
Yeah.
pretty much take 80% of the workload up front.
Yeah.
So we run a credit check. We put the numbers together. We have a conversation with you and your wife, so you know you're good to go. Like a 90%, 95% of the time, you're good to go.
So
Yeah.
basically, all the due diligence is more or less done up front, and you're just formalizing things as you move through the process. So the 5 banking days may, like you say, you guys get it done in 3 days or
Yeah.
something like that because of all the due diligence that's been done up
On a
front.
multiple offers, sometimes you may not
can't
want to
put
go
a
with
condition.
the 5 offers. You may have to go with the 3 days, right?
Or 0 days.
Or 0 days, yeah.
Not even this process of trying to keep one place and sell the other place, but just in general, when I bought my first place, I went through the whole process, like uploading your documents and everything. And like, I own my own business, so they asked me for like 80 documents. But when it comes to someone like my wife who has a job, she works somewhere, they ask her for like
T4 and
T4.
for
and,
a job.
pay stubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, pay stub. That's it.
Yeah.
So like, if you own your own business, it's a little bit more tricky up front. But
Yeah.
like, for someone that has a job, gets paid and gets issued a T4 at the end of the year,
It's
it's
pretty
super
straightforward.
simple.
It's
pretty straightforward, yeah. But yeah, so that kind of takes us through more or less the process. What other
Yeah.
questions would you have after this? Anything?
If I have a term on my mortgage, like I have a 5-year fixed right now, it doesn't matter when I start looking for a second property. If I have to like refinance and everything like
You can
that.
actually refinance with the same lender as well, right? So let's say you have a really good rate and you have 4 years left on it.
Yeah.
I'll say go. If I deal with the lender, I'll say we can take care of it on our end. If not, go to a lender and set up the refinance with the lender, so you don't need to lose the rate that you have.
So if he actually has a very good 5-year fixed rate mortgage and he's got 4 years left on it, he can actually go back to the lender and still refi and try to maintain that
So-
rate, or there's going to be a blended rate.
It's a blender rate, right? So we really need to look at what's a blender rate going to look like, right?
So if he's at 2 points and the bank's offering like 4.75,
it may not even work.
yeah.
It may not even worth it to do it. So it's come down to the calculation. So usually what I do is I run the math and I say, hey, listen, it makes sense. Go to your current lender and refinance it. Then let me take care of the purchase for you.
Yeah.
Or it makes sense to break it and do everything as a fresh.
Yeah.
Depends on what financial situation you are.
Just sometimes when I talk about like fixed rate mortgages, I always get kind of scared about like the fees to kind of break it, right? So basically you were saying, like in another video we had, we were basically saying if you're on a fixed rate and you come up to your 4-month period and you kind of redo the mortgage with the same institution, there's not going to be any kind of penalty or anything else like that. Well, what if in his situation, he's got 4 years left and needs to kind of refinance because he wants to get the wheels moving on this thing, but he stays with the same institution? Are they still going to charge him a fee?
If you stay with the same institution, no.
Okay.
They will do a blender rate.
But actually, shouldn't it be to their benefit right now? Example, if he has got a 2 points right now, and then they're going to charge you 4.75, and if do a blended rate, isn't it to their advantage?
It is their advantage
Yeah.
for sure. And also they're not losing the client either, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I'm more about a variable rate as well. With the penalty. Like right now I have a client, she literally became self-employed 6 months back.
Yeah.
And she went to the bank she deals with. They said they cannot qualify. And we had to take her to a different lender. She's going to pay $12,000 to break a $200,000 mortgage.
That's insanity.
But she only need to borrow $325,000.
That's crazy.
So it's not always the fixed rate or whatever it is. You don't know what will happen over the next 5 years.
You know what? Like that's kind of true too, because like I did a refi on one of my properties, right? And I don't know, with variable rate, I'm like always thinking, okay, it's going to be cheap to break the mortgage or whatever. We'll just break it and move on. But the rate went up so much, and I didn't factor that in my calculation, right?
The penalty went up.
And I get the adjustment from the lawyers, like $5,700 to break what, man? Like it doesn't make any sense. And then I go back, I was like, yeah,
The
my
rates has gone
freaking
up.
full payment is my interest payment, basically.
Oh,
of course,
man.
they're going to take 3 months of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't factor that
So
in.
how long you on the condo for, Chris?
For 3 years now.
So
Just
there you
over
go.
3.
Average size is about 2.3 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Everyone do something with the mortgage. So that's the reason I'm sometimes not a big fan of the fixed terms, because you're always doing something with it.
Yeah.
Let's say you go and tell the current lender, oh, I'm going to refinance they're going to ask you, why are you pulling $400,000 or $300,000 extra? Oh, I want to buy another property. So what they need to do? They need to factor the other mortgage payment into this. Now they say, oh, you may not qualify. Now you need to leave the lender to go to another lender. So you can pay $30,000, $40,000 on penalty or $20,000 to break the mortgage. So that's why you should never go on a long-term. Personally, I don't believe in long-term
Yeah.
products.
I don't believe in long-term fixed products.
Yeah, I know you're both not fans of them.
Yeah, but like, look, hey, listen, it's kind of screwed me over in the situation that we are in right now. Like, I know somebody that has a 1.2% mortgage right now,
Everyone's
like 1.2.
laughing, yeah.
What
And
do you
I'm
mean with the
like,
penalty to break it?
hey, we have some clients, and I was talking to mutual clients of ours, and I was over at their place, and he's just basically like, "What's wrong with you? Like, how could you have missed these signs?" He's basically told me, he's like, "How could you have missed these signs?" And I'm like, I don't know. But he thought of something, and him and his other buddy, both mutual clients of ours, they actually locked up and got fixed rates. And
Smart.
But you don't know, right, Jose?
that's true.
What about if the next 5 years they want to do a refinance or
Yeah.
they want to do something? So when you borrow the lower rate, the reinvestment, like they're okay. But what about if they want to do something if they had to pay a penalty to break the mortgage?
Yeah.
You need to look at the opportunity cost.
You're true.
Yeah.
But and I guess that's also tailored to like what your plan is to do with your real estate, right? Like if you're a very kind of like stable person, I'm not really going to do anything with
Then
this.
go with
this
the
is
fixed term.
Then just go with the fixed term, right? Because then you're always going to be safe in that way. But like I don't know, I feel like maybe even the three of us we're kind of a little bouncy, and we want to try to figure
Yeah,
this
you
out.
want to put the
figure
money
that
here
out.
to
Yeah.
buy that.
Sure.
Yeah,
You want to move
use it-
things around, right?
You want to move things around, right?
And
So
to leverage
then-
things.
Then
a
you're
little
always
bit.
going to do something with that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get tied up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
I have another question. Let's say like we have like a budget of like $1 million, let's
Sure.
say,
Yeah.
and we have the choice of having 2 condos versus having one place, like one detached home.
Do you have an opinion about this? Because I have an opinion about this.
Why don't you go
Sure,
first?
I'll
I think
share
we
my
probably have a similar opinion.
Maybe not, because I think we've done things a little bit differently too. Okay, so like I've gotten this question a bit before, and my opinion about it is, well, it also depends on who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, right? But my opinion about it is that I've always been a house guy. Like I always wanted a nice house. So my idea is that I'm going to get my nice house first, because I don't want to collect this investment property and have it stop me from getting my house that I actually want.
The dream home.
Exactly. So even like when I bought Wind Garden.
Oh, we are definitely not talking about the same thing again.
No, we're definitely not. And that's what I said, because we did 2 different things. I mean, obviously you did a bit better than I did, I think, on this whole thing. Probably a little bit more better than Bit. But you know, so I think it has to be like, you're going to get his opinion in a second. So my thing is that I want a house and I want a proper house. Until I bought Wind Garden, I didn't actually buy any other investment properties. Once I kind of secured that property and I knew I was going to be able to close on it, that's when I started buying investment properties. So realistically, I've only really been buying investment properties for the last 5 or 6 years or something like that. But that just gave me my security of I'm going to get my place and it's going to be mine, and then I can build after that. So because I didn't want a stumbling block. If I have these other 2 investment properties, then I'm not going to be able to qualify on the bigger place. So that was my thing. If I had talked to Vern earlier and I met him earlier, I'm sure he would have counseled me differently, because some of the stuff he says makes sense now.
I did the opposite of what he did.
Yeah.
I was keep buying the investment property and stay in the same house. When he bought a house probably in 2014, he's like, you should make a move.
Yeah, I did.
I stayed. And what I did was I take the equity from the investment properties and kind of pay down the mortgage on the home. So then I was able to go and take more risk.
So actually, I really like what you did, and I hope I'm not exposing you too much here. But like the thing is that I really like one of the strategies Vern has done for himself, and he's advised some of my clients to do the same thing. And like one of our mutual clients in particular, they had a house and they basically had a single car detached, and they want to buy a double car detached because their family is growing. I was able to convince them to kind of keep the place instead of selling it. So they did that. But they weren't dealing with Vern at that time. But now he's going to do a renewal, and he's talking to Vern about it. And now the thing is that Vern has suggested to him a very good thing, because this client of ours is very, I would say, stable. I don't think he really is he wants to take on more risk, but he wants to just be cool and enjoy life, which nothing wrong with that. So I think what Vern is kind of telling him is that, hey, take more out of your rental property, like take the equity out of that completely and pay off your principal residence completely. If you're going to be done for the most part, pay off your principal property. You have no payment on your principal property anymore, and take all the hit against your investment, which I thought was a very smart idea. Because that's a tax write-off, like a lot of it is a tax write-off, right? And that's kind of what you've done.
I don't want to comment too much on the tax side. You need to talk to
yeah.
an accountant, but that helps as well, right? I think when you don't have a big payment on the principal mortgage, you can take a little bit more risk.
Sure you can, yeah. Because my payment was
Yeah.
pretty big when I first started that place up as well. And, you know,
So you can carry the shortfalls.
so it's two different ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
Because
two.
of what make you to sleep better in the night.
I don't know. When this guy was keep telling me he's scooping up these property, I was like, it's friggin' nuts.
Probably made you start itching that you wanted to do it too.
Yeah, like for sure it does, and that's the other thing is like, you know, it's a group that you're surrounding yourself with as well. So when he talks about it, it actually makes a little bit more sense to me. You know what I mean? Because this whole thing, me personally, I was always intimidated about the whole financing part of it because like our background is that like, you know, with my parents keep getting rejected for mortgages and things, and we don't see things happening. And then you're always kind of like, I don't want to apply, I'm going to get rejected or blah, 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 blah. But when you talk to someone like Fern, at least he could explain to you like, no, man, like, what are you worried about? Like, this is this, this is this. Hey, like even put it this way, there was something that happened with the refi that I was trying to do right now. And basically I was like, you're nuts, man. Like, my payments on this house right now was like $1,440, okay, $1,440, and my payments were going to go up to like $3,600 or $3,700 a month, and I was going to net out, I don't mind saying it, like $250,000 or $260,000 I was going to be able to take out of this property after my expenses or whatever. And I calculated every which way, and I was like, this is retarded. Why would I pay such a huge premium, like $2,000 a month to get this kind of money? It doesn't make sense. But we put it into context, right? And it's personalized for everyone's situation.
Yeah.
Basically, Vern told me and said, if you don't do this now, you're screwed, right? Like you better, if you ever want to touch this property in terms of a refi before you commit yourself to other stuff, you have an opportunity right now to take this money. Yeah, you're going to pay a higher fee at it, but you're not going to get this money back out.
If you think that money can create more money,
Sure.
do it. If not, just leave
Then
the way
leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
But so
what we
sometimes the
talked about.
tactics this guy tells me about it, I basically shut him down. And I'm like, no thanks, it's not going to work for me. And then he takes me out for lunch and he's
He
like, this is
explains
how
it
it
to you.
works.
Yeah.
And I get a free lunch. I should just pretend I don't understand more often.
Okay, there you
Where's
go.
my free lunch? I don't understand.
It's all about building wealth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's the right advice. It may work for someone, it may not work for someone.
Yeah.
But what bothers me is I come across a client who are in a position to keep the property,
Yeah.
to buy another property. They say, no, we don't want to keep it. Then 5 years later, they come and say, I wish I listened to you.
You know, the other bigger thing I tell people is that, like, how do you think your kid's going to buy real estate? Like,
Yeah.
where's your kid going to live?
So we were talking earlier, I don't know you overheard or not. I was in a meeting, they were mentioning that they can only build 750,000 homes in 10 years span. But we have a 1.5 million unit shortage. So imagine with the immigrations going up and the builders are putting hold on the new bills.
Yeah.
You can imagine what the demand is going to be in a kind of 5, 10
for
years.
sure.
This is the controversy that's going to basically get our ratings up. Because we're going to get a comment that says, are you crazy? There's so much land and this is not going to happen.
You know how hard to do infrastructure in Canada based
Yeah.
on the
Oh,
geographical
crazy.
location? It's
Yeah.
not like a Europe, like everything is close by.
Yeah.
Takes forever.
Takes forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if anyone's watching and you guys want to help us with the Greenbelt issue up in Bowmanville,
Hit him.
let me know.
Did you get an answer for your question?
I think so.
Send over your document.
Now I have to submit all my documents. End of month.
All right, guys. Well, this was actually cool.
Yeah.
Chris is actually really thinking this wasn't staged. He's actually thinking about doing this.
Yeah.
And maybe what we could do is hopefully this is all going to be successful in the next few months or a year or whatever it is. And we could do a follow-up call
Yeah.
or a follow-up video and see how this all went.
We'll have another one being like, oh, Chris couldn't do it.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
There you go.
We ran his credit and it's 480. Have you ever seen a 480 score before? Yeah, okay. All right, guys.
I will not tell you what.
Hey, we've had situations like this before too. Anyways,
Yeah.
we won't get into those ones.
All right.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for watching this. If you guys have any questions, please reach out. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk soon.
Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold.